advocacy group Open Secrets has filed an application at the High Court in Pretoria seeking a judicial review of the conduct of the Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority during their prolonged investigation into corruption at Prasa. Now, the application calls on the court to declare as unlawful both the extended delay in concluding the investigations and the NPA's failure to make a decision on whether to prosecute those implicated. Of course, we're talking about the passenger rail agency of South Africa. Luthando Vilakazi is a lawyer at Open Secrets and joins us now for more on the story. Luthando, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to have you with us. Of course, we know that 5 billion rand of public funds was siphoned from Prasa. We know that as a fact during the years between 2012 and 2017. And yet, no one has been brought to book.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. Yeah, as you've correctly said, excess of 5 billion rand has still been unaccounted for. The contracts in question were related to companies Siangena and Siangena Technologies and Swifambo rail leasing. The courts have already set aside those contracts and they've been reviewed, and it was confirmed by the Supreme Court of Appeal. So on the face of it, we know that there needs to be some action taken by law enforcement in relation to these contracts. But almost 10 years since the first criminal complaints were filed, we have yet to see any decision taken by the NPA or any reasons given for the delay.
So 10 years later, a mountain of evidence speaking to the corruption at Prasa, and not a single case brought yet.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've seen the NPA and the Hawks give some updates to portfolio committees in some of their reporting. We have seen consistently that the matter seems to fall off, or it falls on the wayside. And we don't have enough of an accountability measure to ensure that when this happens, what do we do? And that's why we've brought the case now to our courts to hopefully assist us.
So, when we think about Prasa, I think the person perhaps who is synonymous with Prasa would be the former group CEO, Lucky Montana. And we know that he's now serving as an MP for Mkhonto weSizwe Party in Parliament.
Yes, I mean, it's not for us to decide whether the NPA should be bringing cases against Lucky Montana or any of the other persons implicated in the looting. But if an investigation had been completed, one can ask themselves whether an MP, would be in that position if law enforcement had fulfilled its obligations under the Constitution.
Right. I mean, when we talk about the state capture years, it is frustrating, right? And the NPA has had an incredibly slow start to, or perhaps even a non-start to prosecuting state capture cases. Years now since the state capture inquiry report was released, we're yet to see anyone charged, let alone convicted, in connection with any state capture cases.
Fully agree. It's a completely frustrating process. Let's remember that over 1 billion rand went into the Zondo Commission. Those recommendations are extensive and, rightly or wrongly, do provide I think quite a useful guideline for law enforcement to follow. Of course, that doesn't speak to their own obligations under the Constitution, which is to act without fear, favor, or prejudice. And also our right as citizens of South Africa to see that there is just administrative action, to see our state institutions functioning properly. Now that we're in this stage where we understand that there are, of course, other factors at play here. The NDPP and Lieutenant General Libya have both said that there are severe capacitation issues at both the Hawks and the NPA. There are severe issues of resourcing. There's severe issues of lack of skills. It is seemingly very difficult to be able to conduct their obligations with the resources that they have. But unfortunately, that doesn't change the letter of the law. That doesn't change the rights that we have to see that these processes are done in a way that gives effect to the rule of law and the principle of legality. And without any other recourse, we've been in this position now to bring it to the courts.
Yeah, and this lack of skill and expertise is not an issue that can be addressed at the Hawks or at the NPA overnight. But Open Secrets is focusing its efforts on the Prasa issue. And outside of all of the numerous other state capture issues, you're focusing in on Prasa.
Yes, and I think for us, it represents something, particularly because of the number, right? 5 billion rand for one state capture case is much more extreme when one compares the other state capture cases that have been filed by the NPA or that were reported under Zondo. None of them come to that amount in one single transaction. So it represents a sort of glaring, it's a glaring gap. Why hasn't there been more focus on a case that could severely change the financial status of the parastatal? And that's why we focused on Prasa, or one of the reasons why we focused on Prasa.
Yeah, and if only we could claw back the money lost to state capture, but I imagine it's not just as easy as that. Luthando Vilakazi, let me thank you for your time this afternoon. Luthando is a lawyer at Open Secrets, the group filing an application at the High Court seeking a judicial review of the conduct of the Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority.